And welcome to the Zodiac Lounge. How's everybody doing tonight? I've had a wild couple of weeks. It's like everything from hell got loose and messed with me, and I had to put them all back in their place. But it's great to be back. It's our 15th show, so this is sort of a milestone, and I'm going to have some questions um, for you guys because we're just sort of going all over the place, and I want to bring it in. I want to rein it in because I usually take my topics from the most prevalent issues in my tarot practice. And I also usually start with a little segment that I call News from Their World, which is the world outside that's pretty crazy, where you cannot be yourself and all kinds of lunacy is going on. And I found out this week, I was food shopping, and I was looking at a brisket, and this young girl walked up to me and said, "Excuse me, are you Jewish?" And I said, "No, but why do you ask?" She goes, "Well, you're buying a brisket." And she looked very cross. And I said, "Well, a lot of people eat brisket." And she said, "That is anti Semitic. During World War II, the Jews were in camps and they didn't get any meat. They only had hot soup and they would burn themselves on it. And what you're doing is a disrespect to them." And I was like, "Oh, righty then, move over," grabbed my brisket, took off. And I'm like, what are we coming to? What in gay hell are we coming to? Um, I People just think that they have the right to walk up to you and scold you for something that is their issue and not yours. So I'm thinking, how much longer do I have? I'm looking at the calendar. I'm looking at my birth certificate. It's like, all right, you probably have at least another 10 years left in you. So brace yourself. And then as the week went on, I noticed that our news topics got crazier and crazier and crazier. For example, I read an article in the New York Times online about masks and wearing them outside, and it seems that they've done a 180. But what surprised me, I didn't have time to finish reading it, so of course I emailed myself a link. And the name of the article, the topic of the article is called "A Mask Outdoors," with a big question mark. And the um, the link says, "Briefing: Police shooting, Putin, Russia, Lake Valley." I'm not kidding you. I'm going to post that right in chat right now. And if anybody wants to follow the link, go ahead. You're going to learn that, according to the New York Times, it was really on the other side of this issue for the longest time. I'll read you the first two paragraphs. On the issue of outdoor mask wearing, it helps to review a basic fact. There were few, if any, documented cases of brief outdoor interactions leading to COVID transmission. If you're passing other people on a sidewalk or sitting near them on a park bench, the exposure of exhaled particles appears to be too small to lead to infection. Did you hear that? So for the past year, we've been locked inside, wrapped in plastic. But now they're telling us the complete opposite. Viral particles quickly disperse in outdoor air, and the risk of inhaling aerosol virus from a jogger or passersby are negligible. My colleague Tara Parker-Pope writes. I love hyphenated names. Citing an interview she did with Lindsay Marr of Virginia Tech, as Dr. Muge Savick, an infectious disease expert at the University of St. Andrews, says outdoors is not where the infection and transmission occurs. So that leads me to really become angry because for the past year, my tarot clients have been hysterical. They are so afraid of things. Um, they're locked up together. And, after the first couple of months, they were getting a little antsy. But I was saying, you know what? You're never going to have this opportunity again for a really long time to really do things together as a family. So take advantage of it and give yourself all the attention you haven't been able to give while you were running back and forth to work and doing your errands and everything else. Now you are all together. You can finally play like Yahtzee or something like that. And now there's a 180. But 2 months after that, I'm like, okay, keep seeing each other, keep hanging with each other, interact as a family. Just do not ever watch The Shining, because it was starting to get dangerous around June or July of last year. And now this. So, according to the New York Times, your chances are 0 to slim of catching something from a passerby. So, I don't know. You do what you want. Um, I'm not going to give anybody any advice. I know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go about my life the way it was, the way I have been, and not have any problems with that. So we're all going to be good. Do what you think is your best chance to keep yourself safe. Don't let anybody ridicule you, criticize you. Don't walk up to people in food stores, because there was a leg of lamb next to that brisket, and I really thought for a minute that I should just pick it up and clock her, because I'm just over it all. But on the upside, here we all are in the Zodiac Lounge. It's a haven for free range thinkers, for for just people who are untamed, to be able to express ourselves with each other and have a reasoned conversation and not be judged and not be canceled and not be admonished while you're picking out your goddamn meat in the food store. So tonight is my 15th show. And I'm really excited that we've lasted this long. I love everybody that I'm seeing say hi in the office. Hi, Bonnie. Hi, Melee. Jacqueline, Christina, you're always delightful. Michael, great to see you. And Keisha and Alex. Yes, 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 yes. All my buddies are here. And I hope many more, because I would just kill myself if I was doing this for tiny people. And Glenn Klausner wants me for president of the United States. No, no, no. I have too much baggage, too many skeletons in the closet. I was shady as hell, and it'll all come out. But I might just preempt that and get the story, get ahead of the story out there. But in any case, I would like if you would take a minute. I mean, we've covered all kinds of things. I started out with a really controversial topic, which was childhood sexual molestations, and I had two women on who took decades to overcome that, and they shared their courageous story. We even had a sitting judge, my favorite Judge Steelig, Judge Olga, who is more of a badass than Judge Judy could ever be, and she weighed in with the legal angles. And we had Glenn Klausner, who's in the audience tonight, amazing medium. He did two shows for us and really did some amazing things. And we did a ritual for Imbolc in February, and I did another one that was really insane for the vernal equinox. And we've talked about tarot, we've talked about everything. But I would like to know what topics you would like us to focus on in the future, because we're beginning to regroup and restructure, and I want to make sure that you're all having a good time and that you're all satisfied with the information that you're getting. And it'll also help me land some amazing guests to bring you who are experts in their fields. So please, anything you want to know, anything you would like to see and hear discussed on this show, please put it in chat, and I'll do my best to find interesting speakers and experts to expand those topics for you. How many of you out there saw my Strega show? Raise your hand. I can't see anybody. I'll raise my hand. I had a blast doing it. It was a lot of fun, and I hope you did catch it. If you didn't, you can go to our YouTube channel, which I believe finally has a name. So maybe Scott Harney can leave us a link in chat where you can go and you can follow us and you can subscribe, and we can just grow and grow and grow into like a pretty amazing community. Um, my topic this week has to do with clearing out the old, and I took that from a lot of the calls that I had to take for tarot. Um, yes, I'm still playing with their cards, and what's interesting is that a lot of my clients who don't know each other confess to me that they bought tarot cards, and they don't necessarily want to read them. They just like the pictures on them. There are so many decks out there. Any of you tarot enthusiasts, do go find yourself some new decks. I mean, just respond to the art. Whatever moves you is something that's really going to speak to you. But it was odd because many of them told me, especially now that a lot of them are going through hard times, and it seems in their love life after being cooped up for a year with their significant others who have now turned into significant whatevers, um, that they will get up in the morning and they will pull a card out of the deck to see what kind of day they're going to have. And I found that to be endearing. But after thinking about it and after hearing about it so many times, I got a little nervous because it's almost like people, I think maybe because of isolation are forgetting that they have the power to create in their own life. They can be accountable for any kind of a day they want to have, any kind of a life they want to have. And I think we've really become so submissive from being sequestered so long that we forget about our own personal power. So here's the answer. Don't pull a card from the deck to see what kind of a day you're going to have. You are going to have any kind of a day that you feel like creating, damn it. And that is up to you. You don't have to be enslaved to any kind of dictate other than your own. So now that we know that we're accountable, we now have to work up the courage to rid ourselves of the things that are hindering us. We've learned a lot about ourselves. Introspection leads to a lot of self review, and that's what this show is all about. Um, Most interesting and actually kind of sad for me is that the issues the majority of my clients are having are relationship issues. Um, there have been many breakups, and I guess that old saying, familiarity breeds contempt, might just be true. Um, and that's a sad thing. But whether they were left or whether they left someone, they all said, I can't get that person out of my head. I can't stop thinking about them, et cetera, et cetera. You can imagine. And there I am trying to stroke people and pet them and calm them down and get them all zen and approach it methodically and come up with a game plan, get in touch with your feelings. Did you really want to be apart from this person? You know, you have the ability to write the next chapter of your own life story. So, you know, let's get hopping here with it. Um, Toxic relationships. We've all had them. And helping my clients review their own life, their own choices and their own capabilities, I started thinking about my own. What can I extrapolate from my own experience on this earth that I can put out there as as a possible solution to the anguish that they were in. And any of you who do call me regularly know that I will always come up with a suggestion. I'll say, you know what, this worked for me, it might work for you. Try it on for size, like an off the rack jacket at Barney's. Either it's going to fit and you can just wear it and adopt it. It might look terrible on you, so in that case you can completely reject it, or it might need alterations. And that's really the majority of the cases. So what you do is you take a suggestion. If you ask someone whose judgment you trust, what do you think I should do? And they tell you something that doesn't quite fit, alter it. You can take what you need that's going to work for you and discard all the rest. But the main thing is that you come up with a game plan, you get all of your dominoes in a row, and then when you're ready to do it, when you're really ready to say goodbye to whatever is oppressing you, because they wouldn't be complaining if they weren't in pain from this constant reminder, um, then you have to make a commitment to do that. And you have to set the stage. Um, I like working with ritual and ceremony, and I've said this on the show many times, and I'll say it again right now. Depending on how confident I am, I might have to just dress up like the Pope and say the Mass, or I might have enough confidence to just quiet myself for a few minutes and focus as hard as I can, just block everything else out, focus on this issue, make the commitment to move on, to leave the baggage behind. I don't need to be burdened anymore. Leave the pain behind. We don't need to feel that. And I thought of a relationship that I had many years ago. It was probably the most toxic relationship I ever had. I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but I will say that it was the 80s. And the 80s were a very busy time because there was a lot of partying to do and a lot of other things going on that we all had to oblige ourselves. And everybody had a very quickly moving life, and it was, you know, discos at night and drunk work during the day and just running around and indulging yourself. It's when everybody started becoming upwardly mobile. Um, and they were just celebrating life, and everything really got out of hand. And everything was taken very casually because the gestalt of the time is that everything is fabulous. Just celebrate. And you make stupid choices. And I made a really stupid choice. This was perhaps the most toxic relationship of my life. We were together. This was before my big relationship because I finally did get the one. And he lasted 30 years, I'm very happy to say. But this jerk, I just dumped his ass. But I still kept on thinking about him afterwards. I was furious at times. Other times I was worried about him. He was poly addicted. He brought some trick home when I was at work and the guy robbed the house. And I was like, that's it. You're gone. Not because he cheated, but because if I came home a half hour early, the guy might have been there with a gun or a knife and I could have been dead. So now you're endangering my life. And I kicked him out. But I was just unbelievably angry, annoyed, and then sometimes I became very compassionate. It's like this idiot is probably going to get, killed trying to tie his shoelaces. And I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it, and I made a commitment. And I actually had to do a lot of work to get myself in the mood. It took me weeks to prepare. I did the whole 9 yards, every bell, every whistle that esoteric tradition can give us. There was the ritual cleansing of the house. There was a 3-day fast. There was a ritual bath beforehand. I wrote a spell that I called the King of Hearts because the night that I met him, I was performing at the Bottom Line downtown, and I just locked in on that one face in the audience because I hate being the center of attention. But there was somebody there that was just drinking me every word in. And so I focused on that so I can get through my segment. And then I went drinking in the village. And I forget where I was. I was probably on Christopher Street or some sleazy bar. But I saw this person. I thought I know them from somewhere. And then it occurred to me they were the person at the Bottom Line that was in one of the front tables. And I invited them to come to my place, which I did like several times a day in the 80s because everybody did. And I'll never forget, it was a very windy night. And we walked out, and I put my hand up to get a taxi, but somebody ripped open somebody's garbage. And as my hand was up, a playing card flew into my hand, and it was the King of Hearts. And I was like, okay. And then I got real cheesy. I said, my card. And so I always equated that relationship with that event. It's like, boy, was that some bad advertising and false information. So the night of the ritual, because I had to really make sure that and if I didn't want this out of my life, I had to accept that I was going to hold on to something that was painful for me. And you know what? Like it or not, I would have to do that. I just had to get real with myself. And this is what I encourage all of you to do when you're going through changes and you're feeling encumbered or you're feeling some kind of psychic or emotional pain from a situation you're in. You have the right to leave. You have the right to leave it all behind. You just do it lovingly, do it with elegance, do it with grace. I'm laughing because I am like one of the least gracious people I know. But I really put a lot of work into this because I just wanted to be removed and never look back to a situation that was consuming me. It was consuming all of my energy. So I did a 2 or 3 day fast, I don't remember which, and I wrote this amazing litany, which I'm going to share with you tonight. So finally, the night came. I wanted to do it on a Saturday because Saturdays are all about discipline and banishing. So Saturday nights are the best night to work when you want to get rid of something. And I hope all of you are inspired by this and maybe do it a little later. So, what I'm going to teach you is how I prepared the space, the room, the words I used. I found the book that I wrote it in. Look at this book. it's like it's like 40 years old, man. It's falling apart. Even the masking tape that's holding the spine together is coming apart. But I actually did find it. I dug it out just for tonight to share this ritual with you. But before we go there, hi, Darlene. Nice to see you again. Um, Are there any questions or anything that anybody would like to say? Comments are welcome too. Have any of you had this experience where you just can't get rid of something that you know is bad for you and you wonder will you ever be free of it? You can say it in chat. If you'd like to come on the air, let us know. Um, and I'll just keep on talking because part of my preparation was um, you have to clean the space you're working in. It has to be free of everything. So there was a whole day of sweeping and vacuuming everything and making sure that everything was spotless because this was going to be a sacred ritual that required an awful lot of focus. I bought a black candle, not to hex him, but black is used for separation and for removal. It's also the color that is associated with Saturn, who rules, guess what day? Saturday. And I put a little symbol on the candle. And I'm going to be teaching candle magic over the summer, and I'm really excited about that. Um, it's a really fun class. It's always a crowd pleaser. You guys are going to love it. So what I did, I'll draw it for you. On the candle, I did 2 lines. They were neater than that. And then one in the center. Okay, so forgive me, folks. And then I put their initials there and mine there. So the idea is that we would both go into our own lives in opposite directions, but we were now going to be forever kept from each other by this ritual. And then I had to go to work. So I did prepare a ritual bath. It's really kind of gilding the lily, but I needed everything because I really needed to make sure that I was going to put everything into this and I would never hear from this person again or want to. I would never wonder about them again. So I did the whole 9 and I went into the tub and I took a big breath of air and then I went under the water. One note about ritual baths. They're not for cleaning your body. You shower first, you clean your body, then you draw the tub and you can throw anything in it that you want, any herbs, any perfumes, anything that is going to make sense for the kind of work you're doing. And you're there and you might have incense burning to kind of set the mood. And then when you're ready to make the commitment, you fill up your lungs as strongly as you can, as full as you can. And then you submerge yourself completely in the water and then you blow every drop of air out under the water. Do that 3 times. And every time you're doing it, you're blowing away any obstacle in the way of you accomplishing your goal that night. And then you stay in the tub, you let the water drain. I did a little herbal sachet. I don't know what I put in it. Probably, I was so furious with this person at the time, probably like maybe a taser or a couple of razor blades, a box cutter. No, there were actually herbs in it that all had to do with love healing because I needed to be healed from this hideous love affair. And then I went into the room that I was going to be working in. And it's necessary to do what is called charge the room. It's charging it with energy, charging it with electricity almost. You're actually putting your words out there and you want a safe space to work in and really focus and not have to worry about distractions or anything coming in to bother you. And if any of my students, if Angela's in the audience tonight, she'll remember this. I mean, I think I taught this. I think this was the class that I taught to memorize this with a paintball gun, and every time they made a mistake, they got painted. But it's beautiful. It's Middle English. It starts out by stang, by cauldron, by cup, by knife, by right of office that I hold, ancient powers of death and life, forgathered to this circled fold. Kinship to kinship, blood to blood, by wild night wind, by starry sky, by heathland brown, by darkling wood, to the circle now drawn nigh. In likeness to a henge of stone, stand guard against this circle's rim, while looming in the dark alone stands in the east the hailstone dim. I summon forth the fairy hounds, sharp fanged, white-coated, red of ear, to prowl beyond the circle's bounds and keep intruders' hearts in fear. Ancestral powers, 'tis this our blood, we are your people, guard us well. By earth, by air, by fire, by flood, by magic mind, by spoken spell, our craft's own goddess I invoke, and ancient ones of hill and mound, with fire aflame, and drifting smoke, I dedicate this circle's bounds by all to thee that is 3 times 3. As I see, so shall it be. And I'm telling you, that kicked some ass. I was ready. I was loaded for bear. I was like so excited about doing this ritual and ridding myself of this toxic energy that I was as charged up as the room was. And then I took my candle with the inscription on it and I put it on the table, and I had another candle lit. That's called a working candle when you're doing ritual. So anything that needs to be lit, whether it's charcoal, incense, another candle, you light from that working candle. It is only a source of the element of fire. And I got my candle ready and I anointed it with frankincense oil, because frankincense carries your intention up to the heavens with like full speed ahead, and then it manifests. The energy comes back down and manifests for you just as quickly and just as securely. That's why um, they use it in the Catholic Church, because it carries your prayers to the higher power. So now I have my beat up my beat up old book, and it starts out. You have to start out with calling the person by name and then referencing their mother's name. It's not one of those yo mama things either. This is very important because in ancient times, everybody knew who your mother was. I mean, she couldn't hide it for the last 6 of the 9 months. Um, but nobody knew who your father was, because the Hittites were always coming over the hill and raping and pillaging, and you don't know who knocked up who, but everybody knew who their mother was. And I also believe that that might be why Judaism is a matrilinear culture today. If your mother isn't Jewish, you're not Jewish. So I've been told by some of my Jewish friends. I'm Roman Catholic; they'll convert anybody. So you start out. Uh, Give me a name. John Smith, born of Mary Smith. It is timely to release you. I unbind all ties that bind thee, break your chains and set you free. Spread your wings and take to flight, like the falcon in the night. The cloak of our time to keep you warm in winter's cold and darkest storm. Shed not a tear, nor ever look back, or feel the fear amidst attack. With love and strength, I set you free, and as I will, so mote it be. I'm laughing because I actually struck something out there. My original last line, with love and strength, I set you free. Now get the fuck away from me. That's how I originally wrote it. But then I decided to change it because it was containing too much anger. And anger is an emotion. So the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is apathy. Love is about caring. Not loving is about not caring. And it was amazing. And I was completely free and I felt terrific. I went out, I could break my fast finally, but I didn't. I just went out drinking. Um, I think it was bourbon that night. Yeah, it was definitely a lot of bourbon neat, maybe a couple of beers to break the monotony, and then I think I might have crammed some burger in there to soak up all the liquor. But it just felt like a wonderful release, and I came home and I was happy, and my house felt lighter, and it looked lighter, and there was so much really good positive energy. And then I went to bed, and I had a dream of my maternal grandmother, who was my savior. This woman taught me how to love and be loved like nobody else could. If it weren't for her, I would not be the person I am today. But she had passed. So here I am in her home. And that creep is sitting in her kitchen. And I'm like, what are you doing here? And my grandmother comes out. She goes, oh, yeah, thank you. Now he's my responsibility. And I was like, no, he isn't. You don't have to do it. And she explained to me, it's okay. It's okay, because do you know how I used to torture you? And she was good. She was really good with the guilt trips and all the subtle kind of knife twisting. She says, he's going to feel remorse for everything he ever did to hinder you. Because this guy I almost lost my job and everything else. So the point is, we have to rev ourselves up. We have to work up the courage, because we often don't want to remove something that is an obstacle or causing us pain. because we're not quite finished with it. And we think that, well, it should have turned out different. Well, guess what? Everything turns out the way it turns out. Our job is to live with it, to find a way to live with it rather than have it kill you. And trust me, if I stuck with that idiot another 6 months, I would have been dead. God only knows who would have been in the house. So that is my way of removing a toxic obstacle. And I focused on a relationship because so many of my clients, I mean, you can't be cooped up with your husband or wife 24/7 for a year without wanting to like choke them. I get it. And then they're afraid to go outside because of COVID. And anybody who came in late, please watch the replay. I read a very interesting article from the New York Times about COVID and about the masks. And Bonnie said, I find this very fascinating, this dream visit with. So did I. Bonnie, would you like to come on screen? And Scott Harney, do you still have internet? Because Scott's out of the country, and he's doing this from afar, and he isn't answering, and I'm getting a little worried about that. My grandmother, Bonnie, I found that fascinating too, because um, I thought I had made a terrible mistake, and as it turned out, I didn't. She was actually coming to my defense, but more importantly, she wanted him to feel remorse because he needed to undo whatever he did. And this is Bonnie. Hi, how are you?
Hi, good. How are
How you
you?
doing, sweetie? Good.
So
Thank
you
you.
had the dream that night?
I did, and I thought
Wow.
it had to be the alcohol. There was also a really big beer burp too, right before I went to sleep. So, but yes, I did. I couldn't believe it. I felt so bad about it. What struck you about it?
Like the fact that she came to save you almost and let you know that you're good now and
Yeah,
she's going to make sure he
yeah,
never comes back
yeah. Well, not well, you know,
to you.
she she's no joke. Oh, right. No, well, there was no way. I mean, after all that preparation, I mean, it took me like a week and a half to work up all the energy and sit down and focus and what do you want to say, and you can imagine, I mean, you've heard my filthy mouth already on the but you can
So I'm
imagine what the
curious,
first draft was like.
where was he? Was he with you when you were telling him all of this or
Oh, no, no,
you
no, he was in the Bronx. The day that I came home and found the apartment in shambles and my Salvador Dali sculpture collection and my jewelry missing, and then I really he was passed out drunk or whatever he was doing. So I just packed all of his stuff and put it in a big trunk, and I called his brother. I said, come down, come get him. And then I just kicked him in the balls to wake him up. And I was like, Brendan's on his way. Get outside, take your trunk, get the fuck out of here. So he was living in the Bronx. And I was just furious when I saw him at my because my grandmother's house is like the Vatican to me. It was like the most sacred place you could be because she was so amazing. And she was a tough broad too. And I thought he's
He's
yeah,
like, what the fuck
I
is
thought
he
he
doing
died.
here? What the
I
fuck
thought he
is he
died.
doing at my grandma's?
Well, that's the whole thing. In my dream, I
Yeah,
thought, oh
right.
wow, I must have killed him, and I was kind of okay with that. I was still a little trashed, I guess, from my carousing earlier in the night, and I was good to go. I was like, damn, you got to write that one down, in case anybody else gets on your nerves. But I don't know. I guess she decided that she would intervene. I've had signs of her. It's funny. I smell her perfume whenever she shows up. She only wore one perfume. It was called Bala Versailles. And you could smell it around the corner. We always knew when Genevieve was coming into the room because the Bala Versailles preceded her. And I smelled it that night. And I thought, oh
Interesting.
no, she's furious with me. And so I guess what she was doing was letting me know that she was going to mess with him. And then, sure enough, about 2 years later, I get a phone call. I'm really sorry about everything. I'm like, who dat? It's like, yeah, me too. Bye. That's it. It's done. Do you think we could? It's like, no, we never could. We wouldn't. We never will. But it was just amazing because they do come and they intervene for us. I believe very much in this. I also sit medium, and so I'm going to say that I know it for sure because a lot of the people that have come through for my clients have given such specific information. As a matter of fact, Glenn Klausner, look him up, glennklausner.com, excellent medium. I had him on as a guest, and he brought up something. Did you see that show when he talked about the gorilla suit and nobody knew what it was about? And it was the most obscure clue, but it was right on the money. So yeah, they will come. They will come back. Do I ever call on her for assistance? Um, Only twice, because she raised me to make sure that I can fight my own battles. Before you call anybody in, do everything you could do on your own, and then you call in the big guns. So there's only been twice that I did call her, and they were times when I was very ill, and I just wanted her to make speed things up, so I would just like die. Or not, but whatever it was, I had to be happy because being stuck, not being able to breathe, watching much, losing my hair. I looked 1,000 years old. I was 71 pounds. Let's go, hell no. Kill me now or make me better. And I was like, Genevieve, get down here now. I do not smell the perfume. What are you doing? Bonnie, tell me a little bit about yourself. Do you do this kind of work?
Um, no, not what you're doing, but I'm in the middle of a spiritual awakening, I guess, that
Okay.
started back in January.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I'm fascinated with what I'm hearing you do.
Well, again, I take it for granted. That's what's so terrible about it, is that I've been doing it. It's going to be 53 years this year. And I just assume, what do you mean you never saw a ghost? I just think, everybody sort of has these experiences. But what's wonderful is attending live streams like this or going to classes. Go online. They didn't have online when I was a kid. I had to go to the library and find these books. I had to seek people out and learn from them. But you just compile it all together and then you take what works for you, you give it your
Right.
own spin. Like when I'm training somebody, I'll teach them the way that I know is the most expeditious. And especially if I'm teaching tarot, because I give them a little book and each card has like 3 words to describe it. None of these paragraphs, none of this BS. And I say, when the cards start telling you something different than my book says, throw my book away. You've established your dialogue, you've established your style. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do. It's a smorgasbord. Go out there, try it all. Something's going to resonate.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna certify in Reiki 1 and 2
Oh,
because I
cool.
felt a pull to do that.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, it's an
been feeling
amazing
a
feeling.
very big pull to do something, but it's
Uh-huh.
just I'm afraid to take that plunge because it's not a career. It's not a current career.
No, but it can be. I mean, what you
It
do is you
it's
cultivate it.
needed. It's necessary.
It is because hand healing is amazing. And if you're being pulled toward it, you probably have a predilection for it. And you're probably going to be great at it. And then as you go through your Reiki training, you're going to be learning about other things like crystal healing. Okay. I do like quick diagnostics because we finally reopened in New York at Astro West. It's called Astro West Underground. And it's a garden apartment beneath the store, which is like an amazing crystal gallery. And I have a pretty good sized staff, and they're all really, really proficient at what they do. So we'll have somebody come in, I want, can you hook me up for a crystal healing? And I might not have somebody there because the appointments need to be made 24 hours in advance. I made sure that I got self employed people because then they're accountable for what they're doing in their practice.
Right.
But what I'll do is I do with my left hand on the bottom first, like that, over their entire body. I scan it. I make note of what I find. and then I'll put my right hand, because your right hand projects. Unless you're left-handed. If you write with your left hand, then your left hand is your dominant hand, and that projects. So you have a receptive hand and a projective hand. And then I'll just make notes, and then I'll also talk to them a little bit, not because I want to know anything, but because I have maybe two or three of each modality,
Mhm.
and I need to connect you with the healer that you're going to be able to identify with most.
Right.
So if you need nurturing, I have somebody who's like Mother Earth. I have somebody else who's worse than me, shooting from the hip and just being curt, and kind of sarcastic and just getting it done very linear. So all of that has to be taken into consideration, and you're going to develop your own style. And
Right.
then you're going to start doing it like a side hustle. And then at some point, it's going to get so busy, it's going to be running neck and neck with your 9 to 5. And then you're going to have to dump a job, have the courage to dump the right job.
Well, I don't
It
have a
takes a
job to
while.
dump right now, so I
Oh,
have the
excellent. So,
time. Yeah.
so you can start right up.
Yeah.
Have
So,
you started your?
little background is I had a son back in '96 that passed away when he was an infant.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And thank you. At the time, it was just my husband and I. We didn't have any other kids at home,
Hmm.
so we were able to be at the hospital with him.
Yeah, yeah.
But what's so horrible when you lose a child or lose anyone, like within minutes they're telling you, okay, you need to make arrangements, call the funeral home, and you're having to do all of these logistical things while you're numb.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking that, wouldn't it be great for parents if there were someone there with them that was kind of in the background, but
Yeah.
kind of also providing emotional support,
Hmm.
making phone calls for them.
Hmm.
If they have other children at home, making sure those children are being taken care of, making sure the family has meals, making sure that their child in the hospital, if a parent can't be there, that,
Right.
myself or another
Right.
advocate is there for that child.
Yeah.
And then it's just kind of grown, like, aside from my educational background as a teacher and my
Hmm.
personal experience, I feel like I need to have some other holistic
Absolutely.
healing abilities under my
Yeah.
belt for people to
Mhm.
take me seriously.
Or for you to take yourself seriously. Don't give a
That's
damn
very
about
true
what people.
also.
Yeah.
That's true.
So basically, but I know what you, because I kind of am getting a good sense of where you're at right now. You're just embarking on this, and it's daunting. And then there's the, am I going to be good enough stuff? You're going to be as good as you want to be. You have to just
Well,
feel
and
it.
they're telling me, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. The
Do it.
messages I keep getting, do it.
Yeah. Do it. And you're right. There should be another person to do all those logistics. I just lost a life partner of 30 years in May, and it took me a
I'm so
week.
sorry.
Oh, we're fine. The anniversary is coming up, and I was really crushed by it. And then I thought, you know what? I don't want to be crushed. I have all of our old texts, so I went to this time last year, and I'm looking at our texts, and he wasn't even able to use the phone at that point. He had progressive dementia, and unfortunately, he was locked up in an extended care facility. And before I could get a 2 bedroom apartment, because we never lived together, that's why we lasted 30 years. Um, he just didn't make it out of the facility. Um, and I was working my business as a reader, and then I was working at Astro West full time. And then right after work, I would go see him. And then I would go to his apartment and take care of his cat for a couple of hours. So, of course, he passed. I wasn't a spouse or a family member. Thank God I was able to get hold of his sister, who was then able to make those arrangements. But all of this is to say that it took me a week and a half to catch my breath. I didn't even move his cat in. I would just continue to go there. But I couldn't start packing I couldn't do anything. I just had to, I was like stunned. And I can only imagine. I mean, you lost a child. That's got to be one of the hardest things that anyone has to survive.
It was
So,
hard.
yeah, there should be
But
somebody should get smart and open a business to do this. And it should be voluntary, because it is,
so that's been my impetus.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's very beautiful work. It's very reverent. It's almost like being a funerary priest, where you have to do things with dignity. and grace and honor. And so it took me a week and a half. It probably took you a lot longer, but there are some things that happen to us, particularly with people who pass young. There are skip-souls who might only last 15 or 20 years, but they live really fast and really hard because their lessons were able to be learned in that short amount of time. And they're usually born to very loving parents, the most loving people in the world, because they need to be surrounded by love because they're so sensitive that everything is painful. In the case
Well,
of your experience, it might have been, I just needed to be here for a minute. I needed to be born to this wonderful couple.
he said he needed to teach me compassion when he
Okay.
came to me.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
thought to myself, I've always
That
been a compassionate person. So what does he mean? And then I just kept thinking about it and different things started happening.
compassionate compassion for yourself, perhaps.
Yes, for
Because when
myself.
you're that giving, I just had this conversation with another client the other day. Those of us who are caretakers, naturally, we never take care of ourselves. Okay. We're always ready to give to somebody else, but we don't know how to receive from ourselves. And maybe that was the reason. You seem like a very lovely person,
Oh, thank
so
you.
it worked.
Yeah, so
Because there
that's my
has to be,
direction now.
yeah, yeah. And by doing what you're doing, you're actually healing yourself, because by healing others, that healing reflects inward, and you end up healing yourself when you're not able to do it any other way. That's probably why I'm in service too. So I'm glad you're following through.
Well, it
I think I
fills
do
your cup,
remember you.
right?
Pardon?
It fills your cup. Like
Absolutely.
when I taught, the kids, they filled my cup because
Yes.
of the gratitude I received.
Yeah, and the
But
giving and the
now,
instructing and the
yes,
modeling for them, being a role
yes,
model for them, and because you never know where these kids come from, they might not have somebody to teach them or somebody to emulate that would allow them to express
right.
tenderness and compassion. So now it's
So now it's
you
just
can bring
going
it
a
to a
different way.
larger scale. I do think I remember you came on screen when I had
When
Glenn.
Glenn,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah, and you're in Florida, yes?
I am. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you, I told him something so funny. One of the things he said to me was, I don't know if it's going to be you or someone else traveling. And I don't
Uh-huh.
know how to tell you this, but I think you might be clumsy or klutzy, but you just need to have your papers ready.
Oh my God.
And I had no plans to travel. And then
Uh,
just last week, out of the blue, I decided I'm going to go to Maryland to visit my kids and my
oh,
friends.
cool.
And
Excellent.
I booked my ticket
Uh-huh.
and I sent it to my daughter. And she said, well, Mom, this is great. This is your return trip home. Where's your trip to Maryland? And I thought, holy crap. I didn't
Did
have
you
my papers together. I was being klutzy and fast with booking the ticket.
did you call Glenn
So
and let him know?
I texted him. Yeah.
He's amazing.
He called it. Yeah.
He is so amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that. I mean, the very difficult time that you went through, but I'm so excited that you're pursuing this and that you're
Thank
going
you.
into hand healing. It's just incredible. And I'm sure you found somebody that you really connect with that's going to be training you and
I
everything.
hope I connect with her. I have the book. I just need to
Yeah.
go through it and it's level 1 and 2 in one day. So I'll do it in
Uh-huh.
a few weeks
Okay. And then you get your third degree, and then you can start training and certifying other people if you like.
if I want to
Um,
do that. Yeah,
yeah,
we'll see.
if you want to. I'd rather just do the work myself. Um, and then I didn't start training people until I have been doing it for so many years. It's like everybody needs to do this, because I'm getting tired. But how delightful. I'm really excited. And don't
Thank you.
psych yourself out. Don't intimidate yourself.
I know that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, no. Nobody starts out gangbusters. Everybody has to learn. Everybody has to then apprentice. And when I say that, I mean in a situation like you're in, you're going to have to work on
Sure.
people.
Sure.
And then you're going to start feeling so much more intensity in the work that you're doing, you're going to become hyposensitized and feel all of these nuances, and then that's going to make you develop your technique that is just going to be spectacular, because it's got to come from here. Oh man, this is such great news. What a couple. I've had two of
Thank
the
you.
worst
Thank
weeks of
you.
my life, but thank you for coming on, and
Absolutely.
thank you. Isn't that terrific? I mean, this is just amazing. Anybody else feel like coming on screen? Yes? No? Maybe? No, huh? Because I'm going to wrap. If you guys don't step up, I'm going to wrap. Um, is there anybody who needs to post anything in chat who might have a question or a comment to make? Okay, so I'm just going to read through some of these things. It is interesting how ancestors can work with us like this, and they are there for you. And there was something that I learned when I spent time in Haiti. Um, um, they have a saying, we stand tall on the shoulders of proud ancestors. And I thought, well, that's kind of arrogant. You don't know my ancestors. But then it was explained to me that we need to traffic with them. Like my, um, Randy, I'll get to your question in a minute. My father was a product of his time and his generation and his own environment. And a lot of the times he wasn't the nicest person. Um, I adore the man now. We were at odds. It was not my choice. He said, just don't change your name, don't talk to me. And that's when I realized, I was told that our job is to communicate with them, to give them an opportunity to make amends, because they're going to be very remorseful when you're there. But so what I did with my dad, he was very unkind to certain types of people. Thank God it wasn't race, because I would have clocked him, because I was really big into the whole social revolution of the 1960s, and I marched for Martin Luther King. He was just very unkind to certain people, certain types of people that he didn't like. So on his behalf, I am more kind to them than I would be naturally, to work off his debt so that he can stand tall, because I have to stand on his shoulders as his progeny. Now, I guess the buck stops with me, because I totally forgot to have kids uh, in the 80s. That's when I was supposed to do it, and I was just partying. So I couldn't imagine why all my friends were having such a rough time, and I thought, they're such lightweights. And then I realized, oh, yeah, I forgot to have kids. Um, but what I'm doing is I'm developing people professionally. So these are the children that will have to stand on my shoulders. And I hope to God that they try to offset any of my stuff. But this is why ancestors will come to us, because it helps them too. And they're able to right a lot of their own wrongs. I don't know what may have happened in my grandmother's early life with I hope she had a few lovers before she met my grandfather, because he was a nice guy, but a little on the boring side. Um, but for her to show up at that moment and elect to take that task to make him remorseful, and it took her 2 years, because it took him that long to get back to me. But this is why they do step in, and this is why we can and should call them. So when you want them, another class I'm doing is altars, and I'm not talking about the big fancy things that we see in all these churches and synagogues and mosques and temples. And an altar is a horizontal surface, and it doesn't need to be a permanent structure. When I want to bond with my family, I have a shelf in the kitchen that nothing is on, and I'll put a candle, a glass of water, and a photo of one of my deceased family members, and I'll talk to them while I'm cooking or hanging out, because the kitchen is the heart of the home. It says family. Um, all you need is a candle and a glass of water and something that either belonged to them or something that they enjoyed, or a photograph would be fine. And you speak to them and you ask them, "What can I do for you?" And you'll think you're imagining a conversation. You're not going to want to believe it, but always ask them, "Tell me something I don't know that I can prove," and then ask another relative or someone who knew them to back it up. I had a very funny exchange with my dad after he passed about that. The glass of water. Okay, so I'm reading the chat here. Um, you need two elements when you're working with the deceased. The fire is a beacon, and you tell them, and try to do this every day at the same time. So make sure it fits into your schedule. Tell yourself you're going to do it for 28 days. They'll usually show up within that first 28 days. And then once they connect with you the first time, they will come to you every time you call them. But tell them, use this flame as a beacon to find me. And the water is something that a spirit needs to pass through in order to transmute and communicate, or in some cases, actually manifest. So you have fire and water, the air is around you, the earth is beneath your feet, and the spirit is in your heart. So you have all five elements: air, earth, fire, water, spirit. But the water is very helpful. I know that when someone dies in Haiti, the Voodoo ritual is to take a big cloth and you put it into a brook. And it basically is a way for the spirit to leave this world and go into the next, or come from that world into this one. But water is all about transmutation. It represents the unconscious, the unknown, um, the ability to transmute, the ability to change, to remain flexible. And it's all about the mystical. And any water element on a tarot card, there's one card where the person just bound up and blindfolded, and it basically says you're stopping yourself from moving forward. I believe it's a Five of Swords. But they're actually standing in water, which means you might think you're stopping yourself, but you're actually moving without realizing it. The Moon card is also about water. It all has to do with the unconscious. So all the explanations for these elements are thousands of years old. It goes way back. In ancient Egypt, Nephthys was a goddess of the underworld, but their underworld was the Nile. And she resided at the bottom of the Nile. And water was all about that. She would bless your home. She was about family. She was about relationships between mothers and children, or children and their mothers. She was about the unconscious mind, all that is hidden, all that needs to be changed, that looks like it's set in stone. You think this is never going to change. If you work with the element of water, you will manage to kind of get it to move, because water can be very powerful. Look at the Grand Canyon. That was the result of raging water. What else we have here? Okay. Do I use this primarily to ask your ancestors what you can do? Well, yeah, or just when I want to talk with them. I was cooking the other day, and I was using a family recipe that my grandmother's mother taught her, and I invited her into the kitchen. I have a little bottle of Bala Versailles that still has the cellophane wrapper. It was never open, but whenever she shows up, I can smell it through the box. It's weird. And I had a picture of her with her big tousled red hair, and she looks like something that Toulouse-Lautrec may have painted. She's got that kind of Parisian kind of girly girl thing going on, and they show. And sometimes you just want to hang with them. I miss them. And would you spend some time with me? I'm making this dish the way you taught me to make it. And it was just a beautiful experience for me, and I hope it was for them. I did see another question. Is there a ritual for honoring ancestors and bringing them in? I think I just explained that. How do we find out and sign up for your classes? This is from Randy R. And I believe this is the same Randy R. that I read for a couple of months ago, and that I also knew when I had my store on 96th Street. So if it is you, hi. And if it isn't you, hi. How do you find out about them? We're going to be announcing them here through Esoteric New York. And they're going to be done not only on live stream, but they're also going to be done with a live audience. If anybody lives in Manhattan or close to Manhattan and wants to come, I'm going to be teaching them at Astro West Fine Minerals on the corner of Columbus and West 79th Street. And I'm going to be doing a few over the summer, because we're opening up a store downstairs now. And then in September, we're going to hit you with the big stuff, the really hard one, the intense ones. Because I just want to, kind of have something fun to do. I'm going to be teaching candle magic during the summer. I'm going to be teaching people psychometry, how to hold something in your receptive hand, and you're going to practice with each other, and you need to say things that sound absurd to you. You're going to be getting energy from an object. Um, and then you're going to be reporting back, and I'm going to teach you how to quiet your mind and focus and then be able to see and hear. A little bit of creative visualization, just fun things, summer things, things you could do at the beach. And then in September, we're going to hit the books hard. And I have a 10 module class. You can take it as a unit, as a series, or you can take them individually. If all of them don't appeal to you, you don't have to take them all. I've rewritten them and redesigned them to be presented a la carte as well as part of an ongoing series. And it's pretty intense. I've taught that many, many times in the past. And I haven't taught it for 11 years. That was the last time I did my series. And I guess it's time again because, again, one of the things that happened over this past year of COVID restriction is that people became very insightful. People became very, very insightful. And they became aware that there's something bigger than themselves in their lives. And I work now on Sundays at Astro F. So if anybody's in the city tomorrow, come visit me between, what are my hours? Probably around 11 to about 5 or 6. But I'll be there all day. And I'm sorry, I'm just reading chat. Angela's saying, take all of them. What is the series? The series is called Foundations of Magic. It was temple documents that I found at the reference library at the Metropolitan Museum. And you can't take anything out, but they have ancient documents, and I only wanted intact ones. And I got some from Greece and from Rome at first, and then we had some older things, some objects that were actually clay tablets that I paid to have translated. So if it was written in Aramaic, which I believe is the first written language, it had to go from Aramaic to Greek to Latin. If you think of it, the way these societies grew and the world powers emerged, the Greeks had everything first, and they were Romanized. And then for some reason to German, and then into English, which is the most accurate way of translating them. And it was called Foundations of Magic because back then, this was like, I think it was 1971. Yeah, 1971 that I wrote this. And we didn't have quantum physics. Well, we might have, but nobody talked about it. But science has made so many discoveries about how these things work that it's not magic anymore. It's not miracles anymore. There are scientific explanations. Now that we're talking about working in the quantum and creating things in a space where time doesn't exist, so that when your linear time frame reaches that point, it's there waiting for you. So it just continues to evolve. And every now and then I'll just get an impulse that it needs to be brought out. And so many people are now so much more aware of alternative spirituality. And it doesn't mean you give up whatever faith you were raised in. You add to it. There are foundations. I mean, Christianity started 2,000 years ago. There were people worshiping in the caves in Trois Frères in the Pyrenees Mountains, 35,000 BC. So, spirituality is not a new idea, but every religion claims that they're the only ones. And it did evolve from a man's relationship with nature, which is why the elements of air, earth, fire, and water are so important to understand. And then to find how you can control them with your own body. Our body is going to turn into air, earth, fire, and water when it decomposes. I mean, I went to a body farm once when I was thinking about getting into pre-med, and I was like, wow, man, that guy over there just blew up. Oh yeah, that happens when the body gases. So yes, we turn into the same stuff. And it's important to familiarize ourselves with it and understand how to use it to create more. It's very synergistic. So yeah, anybody who wants to take any classes, please do. Keisha, I know where you live, so I'm telling you, you should drive up for at least one of them. I will also be teaching workshops in different ethnic cultures. Strega from Italy, Voodoo from Haiti. I mean, Candomblé, Macumba, all this South American stuff. I was in the Congo when I worked in music. I learned a lot there. So there are so many things to share that could actually enhance your lives. And you don't need to make 100% commitment. When I was in Haiti, they said, do you want to serve the Loa? The Loa are their version of saints. If anybody out there is into Santeria or Candomblé or Macumba or Palo Mayombe or any of the Afro-Caribbean religions, it's the same as an Orisha. In Catholicism, it's like a saint, bigger than men, smaller than gods. And I had to be honest with them. I said, no, I cannot serve the Loa because I don't have the time to dedicate to do it honorably. I would much rather honor them. And that's exactly what they wanted to hear. So it doesn't have to occupy your entire life, but it's good to know a little bit or a lot about a lot of things and use them in little bits and pieces here and there or not at all. Because as I said, you never know when you need to dress up like the Pope and say the Mass. I'm going through something now with the year anniversary of Christians passing. And I decided that I'm going to ritualize it. And I'm going to make an altar on one of the bookshelves in my bedroom. And his urn's going to be there. I'm going to have candles lit from the time he died. I'm going to commemorate a year and a day of his passing. But I'm not going to be sad because this is our first anniversary. And the bitch better be here with me to party. We're going to enjoy ourselves. And that's how I turned around the sadness and the pain and everything else. And it's like, this is a celebration. This is a celebration, and I'm using structured ritual to do it. Thank God I took all the time to learn these things. And I encourage all of you to do the same thing. And I am yammering. I am yammering, and I'm afraid I'm talking too much. And we're about an hour in. And we're going to wrap now because 90 minutes, people are complaining about 90 minutes. And Scott Harney, who is our host, our real host, the one that you can't see, um, is in a different time zone and he must be exhausted. But I thank you for coming. I really enjoyed being with you. Bonnie, thank you for coming up. And Keisha and everybody who was, and Angela. Angela's saying, just take all of them. Angela's the reason I didn't teach it in 11 years. She drove me up the wall. And we are thick as thieves to this day. But I do appreciate you coming here, and I will see you next week. Anybody who's registered is going to get an email, or if you want to, just go to esoteric.nyc and then click on the events link in the sidebar, and you'll see a calendar. And anything you see on a Saturday is usually me. So click on it, see what my topic is, who my guest is. I'm supposed to have an authentic Sicilian hereditary strega on next week. And I was speaking with her earlier today, and she's very excited to do it. She says, I don't look well enough to, she doesn't look bad. She hasn't had her roots touched up. So she said, well, if I can't do it by phone, um, then we'll just have to wait for it. But she wanted to do it next week. Because May 1st is another holiday in the ancient wheel of the year. And that's what the focus of my show is going to be about, letting you understand how all of these holidays fit together and how we can apply them to our own timeline, our own schedules. I built my businesses around them. And it's working. I mean, I planted a seed last fall about something tangible and something new. And now I'm planning my soft opening at Astro West Underground for Memorial Day, but by May 1st, it's already taken root. Very exciting things going on. Sworn to secrecy. I have a totally off the hook name for our own blend of temple incense that I got from those documents I told you about a few minutes ago. Authentic temple recipes from thousands of years ago. But I need to get a trademark before I utter a word. But it's happening. It's all happening because I took the time to understand this and apply it. And what I've really done is I've made a commitment to myself, and I've made subtle changes in my own life to actually manifest it happening. And you can do that too. We are never stuck. We are never at the effect of anybody or anything else. The only thing we have control of is how we respond to whatever life throws at us. And then you have two choices. You live with it or you die from it. So that choice is up to you, but just make sure that you're committed to whatever choice you make. Don't make those choices frivolously or when you're emotional. They need to be made when you're completely calm and relaxed. And on that note, thank you for coming. And Scott Harney, if you're still awake, we should probably wrap. So I will see you guys next week. I'm going to take myself off the air, but I love you all and thank you for coming.